Let me tell you something, and I want you to hear me clearly. When a man has real feelings for you, he cannot sit on them forever. He can try. Oh, he can act cool. He can play it safe. He can call you friend. He can laugh, joke, text you every now and then like it's nothing. But if that man has genuine feelings for you, sooner or later it's going to come out, because a man can only suppress what he feels for so long before it starts eating at him. When a man has real feelings, he cannot hide them forever. Now let me explain something to you, because a lot of women misunderstand how men are wired. A man can pretend, he can pretend real good. He can act casual. He can keep it light. He can joke with you, call you buddy, text you random memes, and make it seem like everything is surface level. But if that man has genuine feelings for you, if something about you has touched him deeper than he expected, that feeling is not going to stay buried. It doesn't work like that. See, men are not emotional the same way women are. Women process out loud. You talk to your friends, you analyze, you feel it fully. Men process internally. We sit with it. We wrestle with it. We try to reason with it. A man will literally argue with his own heart. He'll tell himself, it's not that serious. He'll say, I'm just bored. He'll convince himself, she's just cool to be around. But every time you cross his mind late at night, every time he smiles at your message without realizing it, every time he compares another woman to you, and she doesn't measure up, the truth starts knocking louder. And here's the thing about truth. It gets heavy when you try to suppress it. A man can only carry unspoken feelings for so long before it starts showing in his behavior. Maybe he gets protective over you for no reason. Maybe he gets irritated when you mention another man. Maybe he checks your social media more than he wants to admit. That's not random. That's emotion trying to break through the wall he built. You have to understand, men are raised to control their emotions, not confess them. Vulnerability feels risky. Admitting feelings means opening the door to rejection, and rejection hits a man's pride hard. So instead of risking that, he hides it. He tells himself he's fine. He keeps his distance to feel safe. But feelings don't disappear just because you ignore them. They grow in silence. And when a man truly feels something real, it starts affecting his peace. He'll think about conversations you had weeks ago. He'll replay moments. He'll wonder what you're doing. That curiosity isn't random. That attachment isn't accidental. It's emotional investment trying to surface. Sooner or later, he reaches a breaking point, because holding in real feelings takes energy. Acting unaffected takes effort. Pretending you don't care when you do is exhausting, and a man will get tired of pretending, especially when he realizes that you're not chasing him, not forcing him, not demanding anything. When he sees that you're still living your life confidently, that's when it hits him. Wait a minute, I might actually lose her. That's when the walls start cracking. That's when the text comes out of nowhere. That's when he suddenly wants to talk deeper. That's when he admits in his own way that what he feels isn't small, because a man can delay honesty, but he cannot deny his heart forever. If the feelings are real, they will rise to the surface. And when they do, he won't be able to keep acting like it's nothing anymore. Men pull back when they are scared of vulnerability. Now listen to me carefully, because this right here confuses a lot of women. When a man starts feeling something real, something deeper than attraction, something that actually matters, his first instinct is not always to run toward it. Sometimes it's to step back. And that step back doesn't mean he doesn't care. Sometimes it means he cares more than he expected to. See, vulnerability is uncomfortable for men. From the time we're boys, we're taught to be strong, to handle it, to not cry, to not show too much emotion. Nobody teaches us how to say, I'm scared to lose you. Nobody teaches us how to admit, you actually matter to me. So when those feelings show up, we don't always know how to handle them properly. When a man realizes that you have the power to affect his mood, his peace, his happiness, that can shake him, because now he's not in full control. If you can make him smile without trying, that means you can also hurt him without trying, and that possibility right there is what makes him nervous. It's easier to deal with something casual. It's easier to keep it light, but when it starts getting real, when he feels himself getting attached, that's when fear steps in. So what does he do? He pulls back. He might text less. He might act distant. He might suddenly seem busy. And you're sitting there thinking, what did I do wrong? Most of the time, you didn't do anything wrong. He's just trying to process feelings that feel bigger than he planned for. Men don't always retreat because they lost interest. Sometimes they retreat because they're trying to protect themselves. He's thinking, if I don't go too deep, I won't get hurt. He's thinking, if I slow this down, I can keep my balance. It's self-preservation. It's not always rejection. And here's something important. When a man starts imagining a future with you, even just a little bit, that's when it gets serious for him. Because now he's not just thinking about fun. He's thinking about responsibility. He's thinking about commitment. He's thinking about whether he's ready to show up the way you deserve. That's pressure. And pressure makes some men pause. But let me tell you something powerful. A man can pull back physically, but if his feelings are real, emotionally, he's still connected. He's still watching. He's still thinking. He's still measuring what life feels like without constant access to you. And if that space feels uncomfortable, if that silence feels heavy, that's when clarity starts forming in his mind. Fear doesn't last forever. A man can only avoid vulnerability for so long before he realizes that avoiding you hurts more than risking honesty. When he understands that being open is the only way to move forward, that's when he comes back stronger, not confused. Not halfway, but intentional. So when he pulls back, don't automatically assume it's over. Sometimes it's just a man wrestling with his own heart, trying to gather the courage to step forward the right way instead of the safe way. Silence doesn't mean absence of feelings. Now I need you to really understand this, because too many people misinterpret quietness as indifference. Just because a man is not constantly calling, texting, or pouring his heart out every day does not automatically mean he feels nothing. Sometimes silence is not emptiness. Sometimes silence is processing. See, women often communicate emotions outwardly. When you feel something, you express it, you talk about it, you share it. Men, on the other hand, tend to go inward. When something hits us emotionally, we retreat into our own minds, we think about it, we analyze it, we question it. And while we're doing all that, we might look distant, we might look calm, we might even look unaffected. But on the inside, there's movement. A man can be quiet and still be thinking about you every single day. He can be silent and still feel your presence in his life. Silence is sometimes his way of trying to understand what he's feeling before he speaks on it. Because once a man speaks, he feels responsible for what he says. Words mean commitment, and commitment requires certainty. Now, don't misunderstand me. There is a difference between silence because he's processing and silence because he doesn't care. The key difference is consistency in other areas. Does he still check in occasionally? Does he still respond when you reach out? Does he still show subtle signs of concern or protection? Those small behaviors matter because even in silence, feelings leak out through actions. A man who feels nothing will disappear without hesitation. A man who feels something but is unsure will hover in his own way. He might watch your stories. He might ask mutual friends about you. He might send a random message that seems small but carries weight. That's not random behavior. That's emotional connection trying to stay alive without fully stepping forward yet. You also have to remember that men deal with pride differently. If something feels uncertain, if he's not sure how you feel, he may stay quiet to avoid looking foolish. Silence can sometimes be a shield. It protects him from possible embarrassment or rejection. But protecting pride doesn't mean protecting a lack of feeling. It often means protecting a heart that's more involved than he wants to admit. And here's the powerful part. When feelings are real, silence eventually becomes uncomfortable. He'll start missing the conversations. He'll start noticing the absence of your voice. He'll realize that quiet distance doesn't bring peace, it brings curiosity and longing. That's when silence turns into action. So don't always panic in the quiet moments. Sometimes what looks like emotional absence is actually emotional depth being processed behind the scenes. A man's silence is not always a sign that he doesn't care. Sometimes it's proof that he cares enough to be careful. A man reaches out when he's clear about what he stands to lose. Now listen to me closely, because this right here is where everything shifts. Men don't always move because they suddenly feel something new. Most of the time, we move because we realize the value of what's already in front of us. Clarity is powerful for a man. Once he understands the cost of losing you, that's when action begins. See, as long as a man thinks you're going to be there no matter what, he can afford to be comfortable. He can take his time. He can delay decisions. He can sit in confusion. But the moment he senses that you are not guaranteed, that you are not waiting around forever, something wakes up inside him. Scarcity creates urgency. And when a man realizes your presence is not permanent unless he steps up, his perspective changes. Men are competitive by nature. We don't like losing something valuable, especially if we know we had access to it. When he sees you glowing without him, when he notices you're still confident, still smiling, still moving forward with your life, that's when the realization hits harder. He starts asking himself questions. What if someone else sees what I see? What if she moves on? What if I let something real slip through my fingers? Those questions create clarity. Clarity is different from emotion. Emotion can be confusing. It can feel good one day and uncertain the next. But clarity is steady. It's logical. It's when he sits down with himself and admits, my life is better with her in it. Once a man reaches that point, hesitation starts to feel like a mistake. And men don't like making mistakes we can't fix. Now here's something important. He won't reach out because you pressured him. He won't reach out because you demanded answers. Pressure makes a man defensive. But space makes him think. When you give him room to experience life without your constant attention, he gets to feel the difference. He gets to measure the silence. He gets to notice the absence. And sometimes absence speaks louder than presence. When a man feels that gap, when he senses that your energy isn't wrapped around him the way it used to be, he begins to reflect. Reflection leads to realization. Realization leads to decision. And decision leads to action. That's when the phone rings. That's when he sends the message that says, can we talk? It's not random. It's the result of him understanding the weight of losing you. Because at the end of the day, a man will move when he sees value clearly, not when he's confused, not when he's comfortable, but when he knows deep down that walking away from you would cost him something meaningful. Once that understanding locks in, pride fades, hesitation shrinks, and reaching out becomes necessary rather than optional. Patience and self respect make him realize your value. Now this right here is powerful, and most people underestimate it. See, when you are patient, not passive, but patient, you send a message without saying a word. And when you carry yourself with self-respect, you set a standard that speaks louder than any argument ever could. A lot of women think they have to convince a man of their worth. They think they have to over-give, over-explain, over-show up just to make him see what's in front of him. But value doesn't respond to pressure. It responds to contrast. When you stay calm instead of chasing, when you stay grounded instead of begging, when you keep your dignity instead of lowering your standards, you create contrast. And contrast creates awareness. Patience is strength under control. It's not waiting around hoping. It's continuing to live your life fully while allowing him the space to figure himself out. That energy is different. When you are patient from a place of confidence, you're not anxious. You're not panicking. You're not sending paragraphs asking, where do we stand? Instead, you're standing firm in who you are, and a man feels that difference. Self-respect is magnetic. When you don't tolerate inconsistency, when you don't accept half effort, when you don't allow mixed signals to become your normal, you teach him how to treat you. And here's the thing about men, we rise to clear standards. If the bar is low, we step low. If the bar is high and consistent, we either rise up or we remove ourselves. But what we don't do is ignore it. When he sees that you are not collapsing without his attention, that you're still joyful, still focused, still progressing, something clicks. Because now he understands you're not desperate for him. You're choosing him. And there's a big difference between being needed and being chosen. A man values what he has to earn. He appreciates what he might lose. Patience gives him time to compare. Self-respect gives him something to measure against. When he experiences inconsistency in other areas of his life, when he meets other people who don't bring the same peace, the same maturity, the same energy you brought, he starts to reflect. He starts to realize that what he had wasn't ordinary. It was rare. And let me tell you something else. When you maintain your self-respect, you also protect your heart. Because even if he takes longer than you expected, you haven't sacrificed your dignity in the process. You haven't begged. You haven't pleaded. You haven't lowered your value just to hold his attention. That strength is powerful, and men respect strength, especially when it's quiet and controlled. Eventually, he begins to see that your patience wasn't weakness. It was stability. He sees that your distance wasn't coldness. It was boundaries. He understands that you weren't trying to force him. You were giving him the opportunity to step up willingly. And once he recognizes that you are not easily replaced, that your energy is not easily duplicated, that's when appreciation turns into pursuit. Because when a man realizes that you didn't chase him, didn't pressure him, didn't lose yourself trying to keep him, he understands your worth on a deeper level. Patience and self-respect don't just make him notice you. They make him value you in a way that lasts. When he's ready, his actions will speak louder than his words. Now this is where everything becomes clear, because a man can talk all day. He can say he misses you. He can say he's been thinking about you. He can say he wasn't ready before, but now he is. Words are easy. Words don't cost much. But action requires effort. Action requires intention. Action requires change. When a man is truly ready, you won't have to decode mixed signals. You won't have to guess what he means. You won't have to wonder where you stand. His behavior will line up with what he says. If he says he wants to see you, he'll make a plan. If he says you matter, he'll prioritize you. If he says he has feelings, he'll protect the connection. That's what readiness looks like. See, Readiness isn't about emotion alone. A man can feel deeply and still not be ready. He can care about you and still hesitate. But when he's ready, there's alignment between his heart and his decisions. He stops making excuses. He stops disappearing. He stops giving you halfway energy. Instead, he shows consistency. Consistency is the language of a serious man. Anybody can show up once. Anybody can have one deep conversation. Anybody can send one emotional text late at night. But when a man keeps showing up, when he checks in regularly, when he makes time even when he's busy, that's not temporary emotion. That's commitment forming. And let me tell you something important. When a man is ready, you'll feel secure, not confused. Confusion usually means immaturity or uncertainty. But readiness brings clarity. You won't feel like you're chasing him. You won't feel like you're competing for attention. You'll feel chosen. There's peace in that. A ready man doesn't hide you. He doesn't keep you in the background. He integrates you into his life. He introduces you to people who matter to him. He makes future plans that include you. He communicates openly instead of avoiding difficult conversations. That shift doesn't happen because you begged him. It happens because he made an internal decision. When a man decides he doesn't want to lose you, his behavior changes naturally. He becomes protective of the connection. He becomes intentional with his time. He listens more carefully. He pays attention to the details. Not because he's trying to impress you temporarily, but because he understands the value of what he has. Now here's the key. Don't fall for words without patterns. A pattern tells the truth. If he says he's serious but still disappears for days without explanation, he's not ready. If he claims you're important but never adjusts his schedule to see you, he's not ready. Readiness shows up in sacrifices, in priorities, in effort. And when he is ready, you won't have to force anything. Things will flow. Communication will feel natural. Plans will feel stable. You'll see growth, not promises. Because a man who is ready doesn't just confess his feelings, he builds with them. He backs them up. He proves them over time. That's how you know the difference between a man who talks about how he feels and a man who stands on it. When he's ready, you won't just hear it, you'll see it.